Hey, welcome to Mike's Diabetes World. Yes, I'm awake. Ooh, was out cold for most of last night, but in a good way. Today I want to ask you a question, look, and that question is, have people ever asked you this? Sorry. Do you have the good diabetes or the bad diabetes? And here they're thinking about, is it type 1 or is it type 2? And of course now there's pre-diabetic, which is, I think, pretty well talking about type 2. Now, no matter how much you exercise as a type 1 diabetic, you're not going to miraculously stop having to take insulin. If you are a diabetic type 1, then you're a diabetic. You have to take insulin. Now, the exercise may contribute to the amount of insulin you take, but whether it's good or bad, all diabetes is bad, period. You have to watch what you eat, you have to take your medication. Now, those with type 2 can possibly, and I'm not a doctor, but they can, my understanding is they can possibly work at losing enough weight that their body can work fine. And it's kind of like, oh well, yes, I cured myself of diabetes, and you should be able to. If you're type 1, it's not going to work that way. Duh. People have to be aware that there is no good or bad. And right now, there isn't out there. People assume, oh well, if you just lost weight. Which really made it hard for me, being, let's call me, a plump child. Well, if you had just watched what you eat and didn't eat anything you weren't supposed to, you wouldn't have diabetes. Wrong. Come on, really? This is where people don't understand the differences between type 1 and type 2. A lot of people assume just that more people have type 2, then everyone has the same type of insulin, or same type of diabetes. And along the same sort of grain here, but a little different. When I was diagnosed, I was put on a certain amount of insulin. And then it was, oh, well, you're taking 2 shots a day now. Your diabetes is getting worse. No, my body's growing in age, and I'm needing more sugar to live, or more insulin to live. But no, you're getting worse. And no, throughout your life, the amount of insulin you need will go up. It could come down. But don't use that as the only gauge on whether you have bad diabetes or the good diabetes. First of all, people will say stuff to me like, well, you really can't have carbs because carbs will cause your blood sugar to rise, and you don't want to get your diabetes worse, do you? And it's like all these fad diets and that keep wanting to cut out carbs. Now, there are different part of carbs. There's simple carbohydrates, and we're talking like sodas and chips and what's another one? Anything that will raise your blood sugar quickly. Now, complex carbohydrates are like whole grains and vegetables. They make you feel fuller, and having proteins can help too. Now, when I first heard having proteins, I just thought red meat. And I think part of this was because the diabetic doctor I was seeing, I overheard him talking to another diabetic and saying, well, is your mom giving you some more red meat for protein? So, I got it in my mind saying, oh, well, it's red meat is protein. And, it isn't. Protein can come from many different sources. Legumes, I believe, have high protein. Don't quote me on that, but so you want to make sure that you take care of yourself and start eating right. Eating more of the healthier diet. Having more of the complex carbohydrates. Now, our body needs carbohydrates to live. So saying to a diabetic, oh, well, you're not allowed to have carbs, I don't think they really know what they're talking about. When you have carbs, things like soda pop and cakes and cookies and all that, that will raise your blood sugar pretty quick. We've already discussed that. Excuse me. I don't know why, I'm just tired. Now, your body needs carbohydrates for energy. So, everyone keeps trying to remove them from our diets. First of all, you wouldn't be alive. We need carbs to fuel our body, pure and simple. So total, I'm gonna go and not have carbs, is sort of like the same thing to say, because my diabetes is bad now, I'm going to go and have no carbs. And I've heard doctors say, and granted this is type 2, you can't have fruit, you can't have any carbs whatsoever. Or that's what people are hearing. But I think what the doctor is trying to say is stay away from the high sugar. Like things with fructose and sometimes with the type 1 diabetic, these things aren't as important. Now, weight loss for a type 1 diabetic is hard. If you cut out the carbs and you're taking your insulin without properly counting, you're going to run into problems. But just because you're eating carbs, the good carbs, doesn't mean you have a worse diabetes. Just remember that. First, let's go over a few things. All diabetes is bad, whether you have type 1, type 2. You all have to watch your sugars. You need to be eating complex carbohydrates that don't peak the sugar. If you cut out a lot of simple sugars, your diabetes, if you have type 2, will probably come into better control. Type 1, you're never going to not need insulin. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. But, don't let someone try to diagnose you who isn't a doctor. I'll talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye now.